Next on
Go for it, y'all.
the list is transit update. Perfect time. I got here almost around time.
Gary's handing out the transit, the bus service updates, and
He's over about 14 minutes.
Okay.
we're gonna be, going over this with you. Gary's gonna present it to you, and then, once you've looked at all the activities that have taken place and, directions that we're moving in, all the moving parts, required to get the system started, then we're certainly gonna be available to answer any questions that any of the board members might have.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about. We'll just kind of start from the beginning of our sheet. As you know, in some of our prior conversations, discussions, we decided that rather than to do our bus service in-house, that we would look for a third-party operator to provide the service for us. And in that regard, through our purchasing department, we put out a request for qualifications for a provider. We ended up with 4 proposals coming in. An evaluation committee consisting of myself, Randy, and Bill Peacock looked at the proposals, and we chose 2 finalists to come in for additional interviews. Now, while all of this was going on, Marta entered the picture. And
Pardon, say that again?
Marta entered the picture as showing an interest in operating our bus service.
This is after we've already had the RFQs.
It was during that same time frame, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And
So who brought
so,
them in?
pardon?
Who brought them in?
What do you
So-
brought me? What do you brought me in?
They did. I mean, who brought Margaret in? We were looking for a third party. We weren't looking for an established big authority. We were looking for a third party just to operate this system.
Let me respond. Let you guys pause. and
Sure.
get that. I appreciate what you're doing here, but let's keep this simple. We did have an RFQ to go out. Marta is not the only conversation we've ever had. Right? We've had a conversation with Cobb, right, Randy, we've been involved with them for a while for consideration. It wasn't about Marta, it wasn't about Cobb, it wasn't about we do it ourselves or some small third-party operator. The considerations were, what are the options for delivering an alternative mode of transportation? That was the goal. There was
No. But
don't.
The minutes
Please.
said.
Point of
Stop.
order, both of you. Please.
Don't.
Stop.
Right? So, and I'll be brief. But we're not disavowing the need to put the RFQ out. And as y'all had on our last transportation committee meeting, it was like, we're gonna go forward with it. And we're gonna evaluate those 2 firms. But there's 2 levels of conversation. There's the RFQ that focused on what, the 2 routes, right, that we had, that was on the table. We had a 3rd route of consideration that we said we may not get to, maybe in some time out in 18, 19, if I'm not inaccurate, check the meeting minutes. But there's also the conversation, which is I'm involved with regional conversation, regional connectivity. So, of course, I've met with Carroll County, met with Cobb County, about meet with Fulton County, about regional connectivity, about how do we connect ourselves. The conversation of other people who are interested in our system, such as Cobb, which they've expressed interest, as well as MARTA, are all considerations that should be looked at from a broader perspective. Does it prohibit the conversation with the current RFQ? Sure, let the RFQ go forward, let it come back, and let's take a look at that. Not a problem. But this conversation, there's no fear of having a conversation with MARTA to understand what does it mean to onboard. There's nothing for me to pick up the phone and call Clayton County's chairman and say, okay, Chairman Turner, what did it cost you to bring that bus system back online? What did that mean for you? Can I get a copy of your MOU? Can I take a look at what that means for us? Nothing to pick up the phone and call the chair and vice chair of Cobb County, which we have mutual interest, and say, okay guys, how did y'all bring this online? Just like we went to Cherokee and looked at their system and got insight. So I'm sitting here and I appreciate our administration doing what you do. My job is to make sure, okay, what they tell me, what are the best options for the county so I can make sure that I'm properly prepared to have a conversation about what I can't be is a talking head that, for example, if in fact, we talked about earlier, you bring somebody in, like friends, to run a system. So like, okay, I know these guys, they're pretty good, they're gonna help us with our RFQ. Okay, they'll probably win the contract, it goes forth. So, but in that conversation, I wanna make sure, okay, what does it really cost, right? Because I was given an estimate, it cost $500,000 in last year's budget. Now I get estimates that it's gonna be $2 million. And then it's like, okay, now how do we go 5X or 4X in that particular case? Like, okay, bet, I mean, I got it, but we're only talking about 2 routes. So we're saying we went from, again, 2 routes, cost me $500,000 last year, to now $2 million because we got this third-party operator. My job as a county commissioner is like, okay, let me go do my homework and come back and make sure I know what I'm looking at. And so I get to get access to anybody to have a conversation, right? So again, I don't want to make this who brought one. No, I drove this whole process to better understand, like I did Foxhall. My job is to go take a look, go benchmark. All this stuff is open record for anybody to get access to. Anybody can get access to the same thing. I mean, it's pretty interesting that we don't get to go have open record against other things. So with this particular case, we want to make sure that, okay, all right, so look at this. So we went from this place of knowing that it was $500,000 last year when we said yes, 5-0, to pursue this, right? We got to think about it. 5-0 agreed to do a bus system with an estimate of about $500,000. Somewhere here along the way, we realized that, hey, there may be a CMEC grant, right? It'll give us $2 million, $3 million, whatever the scale was. So now, we like bring this third-party operator on here because they're driving the budget for $2 million. All right, well, interesting. Okay, that's interesting. So I've scaled, but we're not providing any more services, and I have no validation. So what my desire is like, okay, let's slow your roll. Make sure I'm looking at what I'm looking at. I don't have to obligate. My job sometimes is, especially at least from where I sit, is to make a pause. Say, okay, let's make sure, guys. Right? We don't have to rush. We don't have to overextend ourselves to sort of expose ourselves to something like, well, wait a minute. It was really 500 originally. This goes back to the conversation we had earlier about growth rate. The growth rate is 1 to 3%. The benchmark of that for this is 500,000. I get the 2 million came in, just like that 5.6 as it relates to the market, but it's like, okay, that ain't guaranteed. So my thinking has always been 500,000, right? So now we're getting closer. It's like, okay, yeah, we're willing to give consideration because this CMAQ was coming online. But if it pauses on us, it's like, hold on, steady. So like I said, 1 house at a time, 1 bus at a time. We're just relatively speaking. Let's get this thing going. Let's see what we can do. But there's no rush. But as far as the commentary of MARTA, and I get the fear of urbanization, I get that undertone, I get what's not being said, we don't want that to cry. I got to put that to the side. I let y'all deal with that. My job is to look at the financial aspects of this deal, like I've always done for this board, to say, okay, what does it really cost to do this? Let me look at that. Y'all can overlay y'all politics on top of this later. You take your ideological positions all day long. But in the meantime, what I bring to this board during the time that I'm here is to make sure all options on the table, big, small, medium, large. I'm not going to stop these guys from doing what they were doing, but I want to make sure that I am to be the check and balance. I am not the administration. And there may be a slight difference about how we see the world. These guys are executives. They are the government. They're the people who work for that side. I'm over here to check and balance it. So my job as part of the Transportation Committee chair is to make sure that, okay, they're making this recommendation, they're bringing this forward, we're moving pretty fast now, all of a sudden accelerated, but you're still accelerating in light of the fact that the CMAQ paused. It's like, well, why are you, I saw no recalibration. I saw no, so it's like, okay, guys, you guys brought the CMAQ. Now it went away, but you still want to push. That's putting me in a place where now I may have to go into the general and against a $2 million bogey. It's like, you must be out your mind. Not you personally, that's just how I talk. It's like, no, we can't expose ourselves to that if, in fact, again, you're bringing in RFQ guys who are promoting that it's going to cost me $2 million. I'll take that alone by myself. Don't need no help from, I appreciate your peers. I'm like, no, guys, we can't do that. So until I've had a chance, my colleague was out of, vacationing, and I hadn't had a chance to get to him yet until he came to the transportation committee meeting. And I saw him like, welcome back. We got a camera there, we had a chance to talk.
July
about it.
17th.
Yeah, we hadn't had a chance to get back. But the point being is, you got to come talk, okay. Now, again, it's one of those where I'm just doing what I do as due diligence. I don't need Madam Chairs, we are sovereign to go and do our due diligence and make sure that what the administration is doing is proper and it's in the best interest of the public, right? There's no remuneration, there's no side deal, there's no benefit. It's like, no, guys, follow the logic line. If you need to call in an audible at the line, so the coach says like, no, time out, stop, hold on. Because we had certain assumptions that things were going to come. There's no more than we were doing with the Google. We was like, okay, we can't get ahead of this, right? We accelerated to say, okay, we can go to CMAQ to be coming, but I'm not that guy. I don't get caught up, right? I'm looking at, okay, it's still 1 to 3%, or it's 500,000 until money is in hand, until I know that it was going to get here, right? It's not so follow the logic. So it was in my best interest, in your best interest, in the county's best interest, to like, well, let's just pause right now, right? So we had to pause, right, to rethink of this. And I paused to get to this meeting. This is, let's just make sure we have enough time to really talk about this. We're not going to throttle this moment in some type of legislative vote. It's like, no, we need to talk about this. Back to strategic priorities, based on the 3 hours earlier today, in light of everything that we're talking about we want to go do, in light of military conversation that you want to do, and in light of all the priorities that we say we want to do, and in light of, I respect my commissioner disappointment, yep, I agree that, like, okay, you saw me yield. So it's one of those like, okay, let's pause. Like this has real impact. Now we stay on path. $500 is a good bogey. We can stay on that. Get online. Do like, obviously in the mental health court, one person, one case, one house at a time. Perfect it, so we go with it, get in the game, perfect a single route, or whatever that route will be, then we can move out beyond that, but we've got information from all different models to consider on how we move this thing forward. But it's okay to pause. Put the fear to the side for a second. I'm just looking at the pure transaction. I'm not in love with this. It's like, okay, but let me look at this thing. And just like I said about Foxhall, if I look at this thing and say, God, this is unsustainable, I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to look you straight in the eyes. Now, if you want to move forward or not move forward, right, I don't need no help to do math, right? And this is just a straight, let's make sure we get this right and be respectful. And that's all this really is. We can't miss, right? Now, again, for political reasons, if we choose to do certain things and really go fast, that's fine. But at least we have the information that up until this point, it's on like an inflationary, it's rolling fast. Like, wait a minute, guys, show me the models of what it costs to onboard this thing. Give me the real budget on this thing. Well, we sort of gave you an estimate. We didn't say it was an estimate. Like, yeah, but you got it in writing. You got these guys that are doing the deal that's trying to come into this thing. You got guys that are coming in that wrote the RFP that's getting that is bidding for the contract. So you come in, you write the RFP, then you bid on the contract. Right, so you structured the RFP in such a way that you can get the contract. That's okay, I'm not getting into that. All I know is I got to be able to look at the math and say, okay, how does this line up and why did it grow? So I'm going to stop with that. It says, let's not stage this thing. We don't, the branding as relates, everything right now really should be on a pause. Right? We'll let our committee come back together. we'll reestablish this thing as far as where we should go and stuff, but this is not the time, this is not the subject to try to do whatever, right? This is dead serious for me to say, no, I'm gonna have conversation. I had a chance to finally meet Mr. Parker Franklin, Keith Parker, whatever, CEO of Art. I thought that was great. Like, hey, it took me 5 minutes. Okay, so how do y'all onboard this? Okay, what is the take? All right, so okay, let me get some more. No more than meeting with the guys over in Cobb. Like, okay, y'all got a system. What does that take? No more than we went to Cherokee with all of y'all. And we sat down and we got the same thing. So what changed in talking to different people? Right, so surely we can talk to all these are all public entities. What's wrong with that? And if these guys can come over here and say, we can, you know what, as opposed to y'all doing a system, I'm gonna use Cobb for example, they said, you know what, there's nothing for us to extend a Route 30 around that Fairburn Riverside Road. We can just go ahead and pick all that up and keep that going for you, so that 500,000 may be something that, may be enough to be able to just cover that route. I don't know the answer, but I gotta at least get the math in front of me to figure out how do I do this, right? If it really is $2 million and the CMAQ is not there for 2 years, do I pause or do I go with a smaller route, right? No, guys, this part I'm not missing on, right? This is not a political, don't need no ballot on this moment right here. It's like, no, it makes sense, guys, pause. Let's see what this is, come back around, take a look at it. But this wasn't a stage, this wasn't trying to slip, there's no hiding. I don't have a fear of talking to people across the river. There's no fear. I mean, nobody has said anything, but again, based on what I've said, people embrace, we've agreed that there needs to be alternative modes of transportation. So that's what we're going down. We're trying to see what is the best option. We can overlay the cultural and everything else. No more than we go through interviews with people. We look at, okay, first, does it work? Are they technically efficient? Then we look at the cultural, is it a good fit? It's that soft stuff. Same thing we're here. Let's look at it, do the math work. Does it really work? Then it's like, okay, but who's the best partner for us? Is it really Marlin? Is it really, we outsource to somebody that's currently that we know? Do we go to one of our neighboring partners and they expand their system over into us and think more regionally? I don't know, but we haven't, we're just now having that conversation. But what I'm pushing back on is a higher level, like, yeah, but I just don't want to cut a deal with somebody. I just don't want to work this. I mean, it's a pause based on like, yeah, if I had a little seed money that gave me a little room for volatility, okay, I got a little room for pause. But in this particular case, it's like, coach says, time out. Hold on. It's a pause. Not a no. It's just pause for a second. There's nothing to impress us. Then we want to bring it online. We want to provide value, but they want to. The public wants more than anything is for us to get it right. Get it right. And that's all I'm trying to do is to make sure that I get this right. So I can report back to my peers respectfully and say, okay, guys, here's what I found out. Here's what I understand. Okay, now, just like the Foxhall, here's the numbers. The numbers don't lie. Here's your options. Now, you can be political as you want to be, but at least I can look you in the eye and feel good when I go home and sleep. Like, well, okay, cool. I had no problem. Because I told you the truth. I didn't use what I knew to manipulate the moment. I literally said, okay, I did my due diligence. I did my homework. Right? So I don't want to politicize this with where we are regarding the branding. There's a recommendation that came through the Transportation Committee for 3 things, and help me if I get it right. There's a Transportation Services Coordinator. There was a branding RFQ consultant, right?
Correct.
All right, and then obviously there was the oh, okay.
You're shifting subjects now.
No,
You're shifting
no, I'm
to
not.
the Brandon we were talking
No,
about.
I'm not. I'm talking, it's all tied in because it was a consent agenda that was placed in front of me that had all this tied. Okay. With that being said, I'm gonna.
Well, let me tell you where we are as a staff right now. We've had one phone conversation with representatives from MARTA. Randy and I were on that phone conversation. And we've had one face-to-face meeting with representatives from MARTA and ARC. MARTA has expressed an interest in looking at being the provider for our bus service. We're scheduled to meet with them in about 2 more weeks after they've done a chance to do more diligence and do some research. We have put the interviews with the 2 private providers that we recommended on hold till we get further direction on that. So that's where we are with the third-party provider.
Interject right here, please. For the minutes, Commissioner Robinson said, do we partner with larger systems like a Cobb, like a Martyr, which are right there at our doorsteps? I think we've made decision to go the route of just, let's look at it ourselves. If the state comes down and says we need to consolidate regionally, we'll visit that when the time comes. At this point, we're yielding to the point that we're going to control this third-party operator like we would do any other contractor. It is performance-based. But the meeting that with Martyr, I say, was recommended by you. You and Chris Humphrey went down to Martyr, unbeknownst to your committee that you chair, and you asked them to reach out to our staff, not to say how they make money or how Cobb makes money, but how they can do an intergovernmental agreement with Douglas County. That was your whole purpose. You didn't tell the chairman, you didn't tell your committee, and you acted very surprised when staff, who has been put between a rock and a hard place, and they're saying, wait a minute, I thought we were just gonna go with this third party. Where did Marta come from? So anyway, you instigated the meeting that where Marta reached out to our staff. But that being beyond that, I think because right now the city is not on board. The routes that were proposed originally were in the city. Why would we run routes in the city if the city wants no part of it? And we don't have the money. We've got buses where they're coming. If they're not here, we've got buses, but we don't have the funds. We don't even, I don't know if we have the 500,000. We haven't had our budget yet. But what I'm saying, the estimate was around $2 million per year for a third-party operator to run this. I think we need to step back and look at the whole thing openly again, because I think we're pushing ourselves down a road that we're not going to be able to fund. That's why the city didn't want any part of it, because they knew there was going to be cost that we were going to come back with it to them and say, all right, we want you to fund this and fund that. They didn't want any part of that because they can't afford it, and I know we can't afford it. We've already talked about that. But I'm saying that the funding, the CMAQ grant money, the funds are not even going to be available till after July 1st of 2019. You're talking about 2 years down the road, and that's only if we get the money. So if we start a bus system, we better know that we've got about 3 years of operation money to fund it. So I think we do need to stop. We do need to pause. We should have paused before all this was done, but we need to step back and say, let's look at this. Let's re-look at this whole idea about a flex bus, or do we want to just do it for the county unincorporated area? Pick up at the park and rides and take them down there. But are we talking about 2 routes? We've got to know how much money it's going to cost. But Douglas County personnel, citizens do not want an authority from Atlanta to come out here and run our bus system. That was evident at all my town hall meetings. I think I've heard others say the same thing. We're just not at that point, and we should have never got them involved to begin with. We should have gone with the initial plan that you yourself laid out in the commission meeting. And I yield.
Madam Chair. I want to work first. All right, I'll be quick. Let's back up about tomorrow's conversation and investigation. Go to the record of the calendars that they're kept for staff. The time that I was supposed to meet with them was the day that I-85 bridge burned down before the RFQ process began. All right? So, by the time the meetings were reset, our process already went on, it was already in its way. No problem, one's not related of it, not like I can't act the fact. They had to blow off the meeting because there's nothing I can do about it. They're two separate things, I just have to put it in the record. That meeting was already in play. I can't help it, I-85, they pretty much said, okay. But, okay, fine. But one more time, there's two separate issues here. There's the, we don't want the art, MARTA, which is, I get the urbanization part, guys. I get the fear of what that means. We just don't want that. We just don't want that. I get there's other considerations, but it's just, what I'm hearing is things, we just don't want MARTA. I'm like, okay, I still need to understand what the math is. I get it. It doesn't mean that we were obligating. That's why I did it. It's like, I'm free. It's like, no, I'm gonna look at this and see, but what does it cost? Why did Clayton fail and got off and got back on? What did that look like? Right? But there's just this, well, why are you even talking? Like, okay, nothing prohibits me from having conversations. That fear I cannot absorb. I cannot be bound by fear of having a conversation with real providers to say, okay, what does it mean? That's so I'm willing to take that. Now, as it relates to, again, I never got into the $2 million conversation, right? That was something that staff offered up. But the money that we've always talked about was $500,000 was for one single, was for the route system. Now, to your point, I had no problem, I mentioned this to my colleague that says, okay, I think the real provider, the real route for this is Thornton Road area. The third route, that was never under consideration because, again, for different reasons. Well, in my district, based on our side, is that they said, no, we had no problem with, MARTA was the better consideration. But I didn't agree with it. That's important. But I still want to know the economics, right? Their emphasis was, okay, with a train coming, like, okay, that ain't gonna come in a lifetime. That's what y'all really emphasize and let that go. That's not gonna happen. That's a different conversation. And so I respect that, I get that part. But where I'm gonna leave you with this in this last wrap up is, if you, again, one more time, what's under consideration, right? We have commercial businesses that are around there right now who are in a meeting, which my staff attended, you guys as staff, where they said, did they not confirm they're currently subsidizing and would be glad to subsidize a bus route that served that Riverside Thornton Road immediate area? Yes?
Yes.
Here? Okay. So here I am, I get an RFQ, and I'm not gonna get into the cities and so forth, and whether they ride on roads or not roads. You already got school buses and everything, I'm gonna put that to the side. Right? These are our own employees, these are our own citizens that are already there. They're not strangers coming in, they're already in our system. I'm not gonna get into that. But my thought was, okay, if you're not gonna do this route, or this route is only gonna be covered, this RFQ is only be, think about it. The RFQ only covered 2 routes that, to her point, was not going to be, it didn't serve the real need beyond just moving people that were north and south of the railroad tracks. I got it. But the real commercial district was being unsatisfied, and they're saying, we're willing to subsidize that. So I'm like, okay, let me go look at both options and see how do I merge and get them done at the same time, because this one right here, we've got these businesses that are coming along, they're dealing with attrition. They're like, man, this is killing us. Can we get a better way to do this? We're paying taxes. We pay a significant amount of taxes into the system, that area. So now we're about the fair share. We're back to like, when they're contributing, how do we make this work, right? That was their conversation. They were the comments directly. So again, we're okay, guys. The pause was right now, the $500,000 is what the budget was given to us. The $2 million was just sort of, if we get that, great, we have seed money, but we didn't bet on that. So we're not prohibited from moving that. But it's like, no, we keep going where we are, but it was just a pause to talk. There's nothing wrong with pausing. If something comes to the line of scrimmage, you look at it, it's like, uh-oh, we need to call a timeout real quick based on the audible, we freeze. It's okay. That's all we've done is just pause to have a conversation. I didn't rush to sign something to go ahead and just over-obligate. I made the call to pause. I did, not you. I made the call because it's like, okay, this is, make sure I get this right. Based on what we were hearing in that same meeting that you guys brought, it's like, oh God, by the way, we didn't get to CMAQ. Right? If we would have got to CMAQ, we would have been having it, it would have been a different conversation. But because of the CMAQ pause, they didn't say they didn't get it. They said they just paused. It's a different, financing cycle, right?
Correct.
So that being said, it's like, okay, based on that, literally at the same time, I'm like, okay, well then, we gotta pause regardless. Right, so it's like back to the original model, which was steady, one route at a time. Sorry guys, we can't get to that 2 million mark, we can't get this full scale of 2 or 3 routes. Maybe we only could do one route sufficiently, maybe we should do the one that's on the Thornton Road, where they're willing to subsidize that, where it's in unincorporated primarily. Maybe that's the better option. So we all realize this at the same time. We're on the same page. We're agreeing that let's be thoughtful. Nobody is disagreeing. But it's one of those, that's why I didn't sign that for the best interest. I said, no, you guys got, I understand, you know, you did work, we got to pause right now. And you're not sure.
May I continue and give you an update on our routes and the cost estimate?
Just 1 second.
Okay.
Commissioner Moore wants to speak, and then
Yeah, I'll be refreshingly brief. Our transportation meeting was on July 17th, and I think Commissioner Chairman Robinson probably just misremembered. He said we haven't talked. In fact, he did provide an update conversation with me on August 1st on his outreach efforts and his objective in doing so. I said conversation, I probably should have said lecture, but that was earlier this week, and he did update me on the reasons for his outreach and what he was trying to accomplish. That's all.
But you weren't aware of it up until then.
Right, that's correct. Yeah. On a personal basis.
yeah, is that
On a committee basis.
Okay.
you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Director Watson.
As we move forward with this, we did propose 2 routes to begin with, basically serving Douglasville proper. And our cost estimates to run those 2 routes was $2 million. Since that time, we've had numerous discussions with staff at the Atlanta Regional Commission, and the routes that we had proposed when they put those in their CMAQ modeling for air quality and emissions, those 2 routes were not scoring very well. So they did a lot of work with their computer programs and came back to us with the suggestion that we combine those 2 routes into one single route. It would basically serve all the same locations. It would just do away with some of the duplicate areas that we were serving. They also, based on the information in their computer program, what they call their Remix program, they came back with an annual operating cost of $1.05 million. So that's what we're looking at right now to run that one route. And
From where to where, I'm sorry?
it would serve a number of locations, basically in the Douglasville area, the transportation center, the courthouse, the hospital, West Georgia Technical School, the mall, Georgia Highlands College.
So
number of-
essentially, they just merged 2 routes. into one.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
So it did not, but at the same point, does not reach the eastern part, right? That's still considered that
It's
second route now.
correct,
The third
yes.
route, so.
correct. And you're right about the CMAQ situation. After we had been working on the application for several months, we had been given every indication that everything was okay. Then about 2 weeks ago, Randy and I were called to Atlanta to ARC, and they say there's no CMAQ money available for 2018. And that's not just for us, that's for the region. That's for the region.
Okay.
Yes,
So it
yes,
wasn't
ma'am.
personal. Okay.
And so, you're correct, if you want to operate bus service in 2018, the most logical funding mechanism is the general fund. There's really no more grant opportunities out there for that.
And we had allocated $500,000, like I said, we had allocated anyway, we projected to utilize $500,000 anyway. It was already there regardless if we
Well,
received the CMAQ or not, correct?
In the multimodal budget for next year, we requested $2 million to operate the two routes.
But the estimate, Mark, we just confirmed that
Estimate was
500,000
start with.
based on the four of us last year in the budget cycle. I'm just keeping it to that mark, not trying to extend it. It's 500,000 based on what, 6 people, a manager and a dispatcher, some configuration. Was that
Yes,
accurate?
that was the initial budget.
Yeah, so I
Are
just-
you willing to, or can you do this for me, explore that route that's on the Ford Road, Riverside, and that's one route? Is that considered one route or
Yes,
two
ma'am.
routes?
Yes, ma'am.
What would the cost on that be? Because you just merged two routes at $1 million, and if it's one route, I'm hoping and shooting for 500,000.
Well, based on our prior research of what other transit systems do, the ballpark figure, the cost is $1 million a route. So that's, I think that's what you would be. And the reason that it's that high, because you're looking at running multiple buses on those routes to keep the headway down. If you're only running one bus, you're looking at an hour and 15 minute, hour 30-minute trip for somebody to be on a bus, which is Federal Transit and ARC say that's just too long. So and that's one of the reasons that they ask us to combine those two routes into one, because our headways were running an hour and 15 minutes and they wanted them down to 30 minutes.
So to that point, Madam Chair, I think, if you think about the route from across the railroad tracks all the way down, across around the mall, by the Central, coming back up Chapel Road, that's about the same distance of Riverside to Thornton, 78, back down Fairview Road, right?
Same.
They're about the same in essence, and maybe shorter. I'm not, again, I'm not a metric guy, it just intuitively feels that way. But again, in one sense, there's some days associated with the sort of the original model of one route, the Central Corridor route. But you got this eastern border that you have some colleagues, some partners, both jurisdictions as well as corporate participants who are saying, look, we want in on that route. Not get to RFQ on what we're doing for the central route. And because there's some issues with that, but it's like, but this is the money. This is where the $60 job. This is where, not to retail around the mall. This is where we really want to get our citizens circulating around to really make that one work. And so it goes both ways, and these guys are already subsidizing to a certain extent. They're willing to, like, look, I'm already paying taxes, and I'm willing to subsidize something. So it just, again, I can't run from the fact that it just makes sense to consider it, and maybe it's something we can do with their subsidy, Madam Chair. I think with the subsidy, along with the, obviously our original budget, maybe we can get within this framing, but you got to go do the math. And you got to go really look at the real costs, and it's just not the employees. Yes, we understand this fuel. Yes, we understand all that.
Well, let me.
We got to keep in mind that we'll have to do the math on this, because their peak time, they're really only talking about getting to work and from work to home. So something's got to be done during the middle of the day to fill those gaps.
Understood.
And let me say this, we're willing, as staff, we're willing to look at anything, whatever direction you give us, we'll go in that direction. The reason that we've been trying to move so fast on everything is that we feel like we were given direction earlier in this year to have something up and running by 2018.
Right, which was, again, my first projection was January, but we were riding on the backs and on the assumption of a CMAQ. And I'm willing to pause so we can rethink it, but at the same time, perhaps, maybe not January, but could push it out by June or something, but just maybe one particular route, maybe on the eastern border, see what we can do there and stay within our $500,000 range. I think this is an opportunity for critical thinking, brainstorming, and so I'm willing to pause. We can frame this for the citizens as we didn't get the CMAQ grant, so we were riding on the assumption of that. And it's unfortunate we didn't get it. I hate the news came 2 weeks before the birthday party, but of course we didn't get it, so.
Well,
Wait,
it's not that
it's
we're
on
not
hold.
getting it,
Yeah,
it's just
on
it's
hold.
been delayed.
Yeah, been done. And at that time, that means we want to redirect our thoughts. So we could, but at the same time, not delay progress in Douglas County, particularly in those areas that need transportation.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, someone making $60,000 is gonna drive their own car, they're not gonna ride the bus. I'm sorry. Is that not a pretty good assumption? Usually it's the lower income.
But you got a lot of lower income
Yeah,
jobs,
kind of,
hotels.
sort of now with our
They
van.
told, he
No,
said 60,000.
Yeah, we're
Wait a minute,
targeting the
I'm not
area.
through. I'm not through. I'm talking to the. But anyway, there, here again, we are furnishing a service only to one side of the county. And I think the people on the rest of the side of the county is getting sick and tired of it. It's got to be something that helps everybody, because everybody is paying for it. But we have never encroached into the city when the city didn't want us there. We withdrew the Diamond Interchange at Chapel Hill when the city said, we got the money, but we don't want to be involved in that. So we let that grant go back. So we should never do this. That's why you have service delivery. We shouldn't go into the city. We should go in the incorporated area. So the whole thing needs to be readdressed because of the two factors. City's not on board with it, and we don't have a grant money. We don't have any grant money. We're gonna have to fund it out of the general fund. Coming out of the general fund means everybody pays into it. This will not pay for itself. It will recoup maybe a quarter of the budget for the bus system. Isn't that about right? About a quarter the fares and everything. So we need to just step back and look at this whole thing again. And I don't know if it should just be in the transportation committee. I think the whole board needs to be involved in this and look at it. But we need to start thinking county as a whole and not just a district, not just a district.
And I know even if we focus on that initial route, that still would be specifically almost to a district. Correct? So it's impossible to start off holistically all over the county. We have to start somewhere.
I know we've got to start somewhere, but we can do just a straight shot from, say, Post Road Park and Ride all the way down there and stop at certain points. But we don't need to be going in the city if they don't want us in there and they're not gonna help pay for it. That's why we have service delivery.
I was under the impression that Commissioner Mitchell's constituents wanted us.
It's the city.
But that's what I represent, though, I don't know if you know.
No, the city of Douglasville, and that's why we have service delivery, where they pay for special services and we pay. But we've never imposed ourselves on the city.
I'm not questioning that. I'm saying, who do I represent? District 1 is what? 90%.
Largely the city.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. I'm not questioning what you're saying. That's who I represent, as Madam Chair was trying to make the statement known.
So you're saying to run a bus system in the city when the city says, we don't own it?
I didn't say that. I just, to your question, in reference to the city being represented, I represent the city. The district, my district can encompass 90% of the city. I'm not saying do or don't do the busing system, or the city or don't want it. I'm not saying that, because based on your conversation, I'm assuming with a few of the council members, there are.
No, we've got it in writing. We have it in writing.
Okay, based on the mayor and council.
Okay,
Right.
who represent the city there, so.
Who also, as I stated, as whom I represent as well.
But we've just never encroached on a jurisdiction that
If you're
didn't
talking about
want
being
our help.
holistic, you're the one who keeps speaking about holistic, encompassing the county. You got to include the city. Just understand your statement. I'm not questioning you, I'm just only saying it involves the city as well.
Whether the city council wants it or not.
If you're saying being holistic and representing,
If you're saying, even if the city council does not want it, and they put it in writing,
I'll close out. Commissioner Mitchell's point, now, I think, again, back to the, when we say $60 an hour, we're just saying the threshold of that side of the corridor in comparison to the retail around the mall. It's a different price point, and there's a little bit more higher wages, which is, that was just a highlight point. It's not literal, right? Look, those are listening, you understand that. But this notion of, because the number 30 bus from Cobb comes onto Thornton Road right now, right down there by the sheriff's, makes a right, lets off at John Weekly, goes to Kroger, cuts down Maxim Road. Interesting how the jurisdiction comes over into ours. Services that, our public benefits are obviously, whoever is getting off, like, well, I can go up here and go to the store and I can get back from this, it happens. I think it's one of those where, again, we have different views of how government should work, right? I don't think it's either or. I think you can look at a consideration that says, okay, that was that route, a lot of work was done, but this one route was never really given a lot of thought, which is where the primary driver was. The federal dollars drove the poverty, drove the city, drove that whole conversation here, did it not? Which is why those routes were created, which is why the transportation services study came back and confirmed that. Got it. But we never lost sight of the fact that we had this one area that was like really where the real demand was, where the real subsidy was. Now again, I get the, last year we didn't even think about CMAQ when it was the 5-0 passage to move forward with buses and asking for an estimate of $500,000. That was only coming out of the general fund. There was nothing else unless we agreed to tap the CTPF, which we hadn't, but acknowledging that it was already there, right? So the 5 of us last year acknowledged an estimate, right? At that point in time, that we were going to move forward with a bus. They did their job, they come back, we're okay. I don't want to belabor this on and on and on. I think it's just one of, we pause, we look at it. I think what you're hearing is two separate things. Let what you've done be for right now, but to Madam Chair's directive at this setting, take a look at what this third route or second route is. And we're just trying to get numbers so we can make the wisest decision on what's in the best interest. And again, we got different character areas. Different areas want different things. It's all relative to the most part. We're advocating for what the commercial side in this case, which is rare. They're like, okay, now we get that there's rooftops, and I was showing Commissioner Wilker what we did last year is about who contributes what to the digest. And you got a big commercial industrial that's baked in this area. They're like, well, we're contributing significantly to that. And also, we want to have a quality of co-location regarding this Thornton Road corridor. And oh, by the way, so they have rights as property rights owners as well to see what their needs are met. Duly noted, right? No more than the mall or anybody else in the other area. So I'm just trying to balance the conversation that it's not a one flavor. There is uniqueness. There is like, okay, let them be. There's no one flavor. I think that's what we got this commoditized view of government that like I don't adhere to that. Right? There's different views. If they want to have something in theirs, they want to have something in theirs, they want to have something in theirs. We all are contributing to a pot. But I think that's key that we can't lose sight. But they have needs too that needs to be met. Then the next group and the next group and the next group. I yield.
I'm going to ask the Transportation Committee to, at this time, again, just again, we're pausing, and I would like for you all to go back and reconvene and study this issue about, present about a month from now, 30 days, and just give us some ideas, look at some alternatives. We want to listen to the citizens, particularly here Commissioner Guider saying in District 1, or shall I say the downtown area, they don't want buses. But of course you have a crowd on that, is that eastern border, that want buses. Let's just look at the cost and then stay within the parameters of that $500,000 that we've already allocated and see what we can do. If it's not feasible, we pause completely. But what I don't wanna do is become closed-minded and stop everything because the CMAC grant, because we were not riding on the backs of that. We've already purchased the new buses. Are they here? Are the new buses
They'll
here?
be here in September.
That's what I'm saying, so they're coming, we've already ordered. My vision certainly was minimized because we have, 15 seats?
Mhm.
Initially, I was trying to shoot for the 30 seats, and I brought my vision down, and I said, well, let's just go with something smaller. But it is not to urbanize Douglas County. I am not trying to change the atmosphere, but you have one part, particularly over in that Thornton Road, I ride over there, that is commercial, busy, hotels. We gotta be able to accommodate those people that are spending their tax dollars. Those businesses are spending money. I've had extensive conversations with several. They said, we need buses. We've already launched the food trucks. So we are hearing their voices to just make sure that we accommodate them. And then we all can stay in our cars, and that's another thing. Air quality is an issue. I have an environmental meeting in another week or so, or 2 weeks, to look at air quality. So this may help get some of the cars off the roads, but 15 seats won't do anything except accommodate those people that can't afford a car or just walking. So explore, get back with me in 30
Yes, ma'am.
days, and let's know.
Okay, so,
Okay?
just for clarity for Randy and I,
Yes.
basically what we're wanting to do right now is sort of put the Douglasville route on hold
On hold.
and investigate.
Yeah, because it was
Fort Road route
contingent
instead.
upon the CMAQ anyway, because of the demographics, incomes, and all that poverty level. I'm assuming that was the criteria, correct? Okay, so we can put that on hold, but go east and see what we can get for $500,000.
Just remember, we don't have 500,000 allocated. That was a $500,000 estimate that we
Okay,
had.
estimate.
So we don't have that money allocated.
And let me add too, though, so I can make sure that I'm on the same page. I'm not suggesting that we stop, I pump the brakes, but not take or get rid of the route out of Douglasville. Because we might want to make sure we understand why the city don't want to be a part of this. And it's probably because of cost, not because of citizens don't want and or need that type of service. So let's not get the two kind of mixed up here. So let's be clear that I'm not saying stop with understanding is that the best route. It happened to be going through the city. What that cost is, and in addition to the Thornton Road area and everywhere else.
Explore the two. Yeah.
So don't, cause right now I think it's about dollars and cents. Cause the city understands if they become a part of this, it's a cost to them. I mean, they're not understanding, they're not looking at the bigger picture, I would say. At least the mayor and council is not looking at the bigger picture of, after the survey showed, the pockets of individuals who had cars, don't have cars, who need to be mobile. That's what this was all about. It wasn't about, for the elite, or for those that, it's for those who need to get to work, back home, be mobile within the Douglasville area, Douglas County area, which encompass the holistic side of the western side of town. So I think it needs to be explored as a whole versus it just happened to be, that's the starting point that you guys have come up with, which I thought was a decent starting point. Now, that may not be the route, because after we find out and do it a couple of times, or how long that takes, it may end up being that we need to go elsewhere, because there's no ridership there. Because that's kind of how this is kind of going. We don't know. We're guesstimating, we're estimating as to where the route or route needs to be. So I'm not saying exclude or discontinue the look at the route that you previously came up with. I'm saying in addition to.
I agree with you. It'd be a crying shame not
Yes.
to be able to do both routes. I'll call it the central and the eastern route. Unfortunately, it may come down to ridership.
That's exactly
and how we prioritize.
Well,
We don't know.
because that's how it always comes down to. I mean, whether you look at MARTA, Cobb, or the taxi service, it's about ridership. I mean, if the ridership is not there, they're not gonna transport somebody, nothing against the western side of town, if the ridership is not there. That doesn't mean we should not explore it. We need to explore it. But if the ridership is not there, whether we west, east, or, it's not gonna work, period. So it's about riders, it's not about districts, so.
Okay, so are we to continue looking at the Douglasville route and the eastern route?
Compare the two routes, and determine best bang for the 500,000. And I know it's not there, but it's a space, a placeholder right now. So just look at the two and then provide us with a recommendation. What would be the best route to proceed with at this time, considering that we did not give the CMAQ grant? Right now, that the CMAQ grant is on hold. You know, so which one would make sense at this time? And then I'm quite sure when you meet with the commissioners, all of us will be able to embrace that information and listen to you and hopefully receive it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, to his point, I want to give you guys cover on this. The reason that we're actually looking at the third-party operator who was responding to a transportation services study that told us there was a demand, and they showed us the map where the demand was. The point was, just like we're doing with this financial long-term planning process, was to bring in experts. So our goal is to bring in these guys that were part of this process, this RFQ, to help us design the more optimal routes and to come up with the actual cost estimates. Our staff was not, they're not in that business. That was the point of going out, and I want to give you cover. I'm not disavowing what you guys did. Usually, I took it as far as I could take it, Commissioner. We think it's going to be about $500,000 mark, right? That's your estimate. But we need to bring in some experts to complete this because we're not in that game. That was the point to go into all these guys, or so we did our road trip last year, is to get experts in here to say, tell us exactly what this is, because we don't need the estimates of staff that don't do it for a living. We need to go to the expert that has, evidence of how much this thing costs to start it and to operate it. And so I think while we'll take it up on the committee, Madam Chair, what's the best way to get that intelligence? Because we're back to when we were before, where you're just going to give us an estimate, and that's not what y'all do. So maybe there's a modification, we'll take it offline. Commissioner Mulcair, do you?
Okay, a couple of other things real quick.
Okay.
This is gonna be a change.
We stole your thunder today.
Back in June, you as a board did approve the new position for a transit services manager. We're ready to advertise for that position now, and we can certainly use this individual as we go forward investigating and implementing all this. Is it still okay? Is it still okay to move forward with that?
Transportation bill,
I think we need to have some discussion about that, the chairman of the committee.
Yeah.
I don't want to give, I wouldn't proffer an answer.
Yeah, they want to-
Just
As you all meet, next meeting.
It would be the next session, Mark, isn't it, that next Tuesday morning before the late night session? That's normally what it is?
Yes.
Okay, our next session, Madam Chair.
So you haven't, so don't advertise.
Okay. Okay.
Pause.
All right, now, one other thing, this is good news. Douglas County has been awarded 2 new grants through the Federal Transit Administration. One grant provides $482,493 in federal money. This will help pay for the 8 buses and shelters, benches, and trash receptacles to go along the routes when we implement them.
Okay.
Now, of course, the benches, shelters, and those kind of things, they're down the road. That won't be any cost right now, but we will be purchasing the buses, paying for them when they come in September
With the grant.
with this particular grant. So that's one grant. We have a second grant that provides $664,510 in local money, and this is to help us purchase 10 vans for our rideshare van pool program, to renovate our portion of the Bleakley building and to equip our portion of the Bleakley building. And we've got all the members of the Transportation Committee here this afternoon, along with the full board, and I'm just asking permission to go ahead and put those on the next agenda, the work session agenda.
We've been awarded.
We have been awarded, they're ready to be executed.
Yes.
Okay,
Agreed.
okay.
Ms. Mitchell?
Oh, I do not.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Randy?
Do you have anything since?
I have nothing to add.
Since we.
It's all been discussed, so
so. I'm-
Thanks, Randy.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Mark?
We look forward to the upcoming updates.
Yes, ma'am.